Global Food Fraud Trends 2024. Silverani Elahi and her colleagues at the Food Authenticity Network have analysed the trends in food fraud incidents for 2024 and published a report, the second in their annual series. I'm a huge food fraud nerd, as you know, but even I couldn't get excited by the results. Don't get me wrong, the report is great, but the trends? There just aren't any. The data for 2024 is pretty much just more of the same. While this is the second year the Food Authenticity Network has been collating food fraud trends, I've been at it since 2015, so it's no surprise to me that the report for 2024 looked almost exactly like the one for 2023. The same types of foods are in the top 10, the same types of frauds feature at similar frequencies. The incident counts are quite stable across the year and between years. It's good to know that the number of reported incidents isn't increasing. Or is it? For me, the number of food fraud reports is more likely to be a reflection of the amount of attention being paid to food fraud rather than the rate of occurrence. The Food Authenticity Network report explores information from two separate datasets: official reports, which are from regulatory agencies such as the United Kingdom's Food Standards Agency, and commercial food fraud databases, which include information from peer-reviewed scientific publications, news reports, and other sources. Its authors note that official food fraud reports make up only a small fraction of all food regulatory reports, approximately 8% in 2024, and say more regulatory agencies should share their food fraud data publicly. If more agencies share their data, we might see an increase in the number of incidents recorded in next year's reports. Will this indicate a trend? No. At least not a trend in incidents, but it will reflect the high numbers of records being shared by government agencies. You see where I'm going with this. More enforcement activity and more testing by regulatory agencies will lead to more reported food fraud incidents. Not more food fraud incidents, but more reports. Similarly, the types of food fraud types that are most likely to be included in the official dataset are the ones that governments are most interested in. With limited resources, government agencies have to prioritise enforcement and investigation activities, which usually means prioritising food safety over food fraud and dangerous to health food fraud over other classes of food fraud. The same applies to the commercial datasets, which draw their sources from regulatory agencies, peer-reviewed papers, and international media. Researchers and media reporters are more likely to publish about frauds that have a potential impact on human health. So it's no surprise that the type of fraud that I judge to be the most common, which is misrepresentation of food without any adulteration or dilution, is not the most prevalent fraud type in the data. Wrong species accounts for the largest number of frauds in the data at 38%, that's in both animal and plant foods, followed by the addition of non-food substances, dilution or substitution, and artificial enhancement or unapproved biocides. These four fraud types, plus unapproved colours, account for 81% of food fraud incidents in the 2024 data, with the remaining 19% being made up of labelling fraud, varietal misrepresentation, geographic origin fraud, and other fraud. So I guess to summarise, the fraud that involves adding things to food is at around 81%, and the fraud that involves not adding stuff to food is at about 19%. Which foods are worse? The same foods appear in the most reported food fraud incidents every year, although there are differences between the regulatory reports and commercial databases. Inconveniently, the two datasets use different categorizations, making it difficult to compare. For example, the commercial database doesn't include supplements, but does include olive oil as a separate category, while official records are the opposite. There's better agreement within the same commercial database when comparing 2024 to the past 10 years. That is the data from 2015 to 2024. Within this database, the foods most likely to be the subject of a food fraud report have changed very little over time. The top 10 for 2024, according to Food Chain ID's food fraud database, are 1. Seafood, 2. Honey, 3. Dairy, 4. Other, 5. Herbs and spices, 6. Meat and poultry, 7. Alcoholic beverages, 8. Vegetable oils, 9. Olive oil, 10. Coffee and tea. Honey ranked higher, that is more prevalent, at number 2 in 2024 compared to the 10-year average where honey is ranked 6th. But overall, the foods and their rankings for 2024 are very similar to the 10-year average. Takeaways for food professionals. The likelihood of food fraud in specific commodities may have changed over the past 12 months, but this is not necessarily reflected in the data, which only shows food fraud incidents that have been both discovered and publicly reported. There are no significant trends or changes in the number or types of food fraud incidents compared to the previous year, although honey was the subject of more reports in 2024 compared to the 10-year average. Food fraud occurs much more frequently than most people imagine. In 2016, the US Grocery Manufacturers Association estimated that 10% of all food is affected. Remain vigilant. And the Food Authenticity Network's 2025 report on global food fraud in 2024 is available online, and there is a link to that source in the email and the post.